All right, so we're talking about citing sources today, following up with the English lesson. So to recap, plagiarism is cheating, and plagiarism is when we take somebody else's words or thoughts or information and we try to claim them as our own. So to avoid that, we have to learn how to cite our sources to say, we have looked up information provided by other people. Here are those authors. Here is this article that we looked at that helped influence our writing. So the first step would be to have watched the Brain Pop video and complete the video quiz. If you haven't done that yet, please pause the video, go to Brain Pop and log in, complete those, and then come back to this video. If you've already completed Brain Pop, then you're in the right spot. So now we're going to look at slide 2. A lot of books only have one author. So you're just going to adapt this first example of a book with 2 authors. The examples are in the blue font. So you would adapt this and you would just take out the and George Smith. You wouldn't need to put that in there, but you would leave the rest of it in. Morris, Thomas, so that's last name, first name. How to Code Apps, that's the title of the book, preferably in italics. Remember, that's Control I. The publisher, Adobe Press, we find that inside the cover of the book, right? So we've got title, author, and then usually somewhere in the first page or 2, you can find the publisher. And then what year the book was written, also in that first or second page inside the book. Okay, this is a little bit new for me, so let me erase that. And then we obviously have the example now of a book with 2 authors. So if you have 2 or more authors, there's a specific way to do that. Here you would go last name, first name, and then George Smith first and last. Okay? And then the rest of it stays the same. So if you're using a book for information in a paper that you're writing, we want to cite the source like this. And we're going to write that in a bibliography, which you would have just learned about in Brain Pop. So we'll be working next week on adding those to our drafts. The next example says for an article in print. So there are books and then there are articles that are printed either in an encyclopedia or a reference book. Most likely you do not have these at home. And we do have some here in the library, but they are less commonly used. They were more commonly used when we were younger in school, but we still have this as a resource. You just follow the information. So number 4 is the volume number. So in this book, like let's say it's the encyclopedia, there's more than one article. So you want the title of the article that you chose, then you want the title of the actual encyclopedia or book, and then the volume number, because typically there is more than one book of that type made. Now down to slide 3. So if you're using an online database, that is not something that I know of that you have used before. It's different than an online website. And so it gives you an example, and we'll do a little bit more work with this if we do end up using some databases. But if you know for sure that the resource you're using is an online database, then you're still going to do the same thing. Author's last name, first name, the title of said article, the name of the resource site, the date that it was published. Notice that you're going to go day, month, year, so like 20 July 2010. And then the URL, also known as the web address. So you would copy and paste, that's this portion right here, HTTP. That is the URL or web address. The final example is the most common one for what most of you will probably be using as resources, and that's from a web page or an article on a web page. So if you can find the author, there are sometimes websites that don't provide the author who wrote it. But that also might be an indicator that it's not a great reliable source if they don't have the author. Sometimes you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the website in order to find the author. Sometimes the author's name is right by the title of whatever it is that you're looking at. You will then also include the title on the page, the title of the web page. So it kind of depends. Each website is a little bit different. And essentially, a good rule of thumb is include all the pieces of information you can find, especially at this day and age when we're not high schoolers and we're not in college. You're going to put all of the information that you can find that is listed in what needs to be cited. So numbers 1 through 5, you're going to look for all of those pieces of information and put them in whenever you can. So this method of citing your sources goes at the end of your essay or paper. And so we'll be working on that in more detail together soon, but this is the main structure of what it needs to look like. And again, the blue font are the examples of that specific type of citing. Then there's a whole nother way to cite when you're doing the work in the paper or in the essay that you're writing. And that will be coming up shortly in the future here. I will teach you how to cite inside of your essays. So these pieces would go in your bibliography at the end. All right, have a terrific day.